Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday evening, August 28th, 2022. I hope everyone is safe and doing as well as possible. We made it through another week. I'm just amazed every time that Sunday rolls around and we're still here and I'm still able to do a show. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the show tonight. This will be my weekly update that I'll be putting on YouTube, and we're going to go over climate related items, methane, sea ice. We're going to look at some space weather tonight, and we're going to look at Sam Carana put up another blog post on the Arctic sea ice, and we're going to hit some highlights on that. So I'm going to start out with space weather and here is what the sun looks like today. Look at this huge hole in the bottom, a hole in the corona. I saw it yesterday. It's just so magnificent to see this huge hole, but look at this big plasma ball right in the middle. Normally we don't see that, but the sun is really active. It put off an M class 6 to 7. Had a solar flare off of this one here on the edge that happened today, and you see all these hot spots. These are sunspots that are flaring, and we've got some solar winds coming to us. Here's another hole. CMEs. It's a whole combo plate. Here's the movie of that solar flare. See, that was the M6 to 7 class flare. This one, M6 to 7 class. There it is. And it's been active the last couple of days. So we've got lots of stuff going on. So check out spaceweather.com. Everything is archived here. If you want to look at a specific day, you can. Now, here's Sam Carana's blog post from arctic-news.com or .blogspot.com. He first put this up on August 22nd, which was Monday, and he usually adds stuff to it, and the title is Dangerously Large Arctic Sea Ice Extent. Now, why would you think that a large sea ice extent would be dangerous? Wouldn't you think that that would be a good thing? Because we're talking about the loss of the ice in the Arctic. And he did, I went over a long post that he did last week, going on over all of the different conditions in the Arctic for August. But, so he explains to us why it's dangerous for us to have such a large sea ice extent right now. So I found this post pretty interesting. And so he starts off by saying Arctic sea ice extent was 5.88 million square kilometers on August 21st, 2022, larger in extent than in any of the years from 2010 through 2021 at this time of year. And there's the image. See right here. This is from National Snow and Ice Data Center. At first glance, one might think that this relatively large extent was a sign of healthy sea ice. After all, the larger the sea ice, the more sunlight gets reflected back into space. At the same time, however, the situation is very dangerous, as there is a growing risk that large eruptions of methane will occur from the seafloor of the Arctic Ocean. And then he's got these images that say that sea ice acts as a seal, and it keeps the warm air from escaping, and so it's a problem. Temperatures in the Arctic are rising faster than in the rest of the world. As temperatures rise in the Arctic, increased precipitation, meltwater and runoff from land, and flow of fresh water from rivers all decrease salinity of the water in the Arctic Ocean. Lower salinity makes it harder for sea ice to melt. Well, and it also makes it the melting point of salt water is lower, though. As temperatures in the Arctic are rising faster than in the rest of the world, the jet stream is getting deformed. We've been seeing that. Deformation of the jet stream causes more wind to go over the Arctic Ocean, which can cool down the sea surface, resulting in more extensive sea ice. Furthermore, we're currently in the depth of a persistent La Nina, and the associated lower air temperatures further contribute to a relatively larger extent of the sea ice. More extensive sea ice, in turn, makes it harder for ocean heat to be transferred to the atmosphere. Thus, instead of raising the temperature of the water, raising the temperature of the water of the Arctic Ocean. Sea ice acts as a seal that impedes transfer of ocean heat from the Arctic Ocean to the atmosphere. So here's an image or picture showing how the heat escapes from the ocean where there's no ice, but where you have ice, even if it's a little pond scum, which is what we see over a lot of it, it holds that heat in. And that's not a good thing. The larger the sea ice is in extent, the less ocean heat can be transferred from the Arctic Ocean to the atmosphere, which means that more heat will remain in the Arctic Ocean. Lid on the North Atlantic. And then he goes on, and there's a deformation of the jet stream, etc., etc. And so with the lid on the heat. It holds the heat in, and it can, the heat goes all the way down to the seafloor, and it heats up the seafloor and can destabilize the methane hydrates and clathrates that are frozen. And so the rest of the article is all about the large amounts of methane that can be released as a result of having the skim of sea ice. See, that's just barely there for most of it, and why it's so dangerous. So it's a compound impact, very high methane levels, and you're going to see in my methane report this week, we skyrocketed in methane this week. So that's all I want to cover on that post. I'll leave a link below, and you can read that and see what all he adds to it. So thank you, Sam, for that good blog post. Now we'll move on. We're going to start over here in Climate Reanalyzer for today, Sunday the 28th. We're seeing cooler maximum air temperatures over this east edge of where the sea ice is. See, it's gone down into aquas and dark aqua. The medium aqua is at 0 Celsius, which is freezing for the air temperature, and when it goes darker, that's below freezing. We've still got greens over a lot of it, but we've got blues coming in too. Here in the US, we've got whites, which is 40 C or higher, which is around 100 degrees or higher, coming up from like the panhandle of Texas up through the Midwest, and also in California. Here in the global view, the interior of South America and Brazil, and then Africa, Saudi Arabia. Here's some in southern China. So there's that. Here's 2-meter temperature anomaly. This is for the air. We've been seeing this area in western Russia in dark browns. It's a huge area. It's about half of Russia. All week. It's been like this all week, and there's been huge methane releases from Norway all the way across. So this dark brown, that's about 12 to 14 C higher than normal. And then we've got brown across eastern Siberia. Then a lot of brown over the Arctic region. We still have brown in northern Canada, and splotchy. You know, it's the cold air is mixing right next to the warm air, and that causes very chaotic weather systems. And see, here's this brown over western Russia. Look at that. All the way across. It covers all the way, even across part of the Atlantic. And then blues right next to it. We're also seeing this warm air over the Atlantic and over the Pacific and southern Pacific, Australia, you've got a bunch of browns. So worldwide, we're up 0.1 C, higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 0.7 C. The Arctic is up 1.1 C, higher than normal. The Antarctic is 4.5 C, lower than normal. The southern hemisphere is minus 0.5 C. The tropics are up 0.1 C. Here's precipitation in clouds. We're still seeing rain in this Arctic region. We've had some rain every day up here, and that just heats things up. And we've got rain coming up to the southern edge of Greenland. Here are the jet loops. It's not a stream anymore. It's just this big loopy thing. And there are breaks where the cold air escapes. And we've got double loops, parallel loops here on this eastern side. Then we've got one stream trying to set up right around the equator, and we've got this weird double looping in the southern hemisphere. We'll look at the sea ice and snow cover in a second. Here's sea surface temperature anomaly updated to yesterday, and this is worse every time we look at it. Wherever the ice is already melted, we've got reds, pinks, and browns. The light pink is 6C, higher than normal. And look at this big blob, brown here, and this East Siberian Sea, and then all around the Russia coastline. So this is not good. And so this is where you see the white. That's where the extent of the sea ice is. Now there are lots of areas with open water, so it's not just solid. I mean, it's volume wise we're at the lowest volume wise, but so this is a little deceiving, or it's a little hard to understand, if there's all this extent, but there's not anyway, but they're counting it all as extent, so that's a little not quite right either. So I don't know where I was going with all that. Oh yeah, just think of all this white area as holding in the heat underneath the heat, and it's warm water coming in from the Atlantic, and it's coming up under this sea ice and up through the Pacific too. And so instead of the heat being released, it's just the dome. It's under the dome to heat up the sea floor. Okay, here we've got this blob in the North Atlantic, and she's just circling Newfoundland here. Then we've got the dark brown all the way across, and look at this. Here in the Pacific, we've got twin blobs now. We've got two evil eyes, one in the northeast and one in the northwest Pacific. This one was the original one that had been over here, but it migrated to the west. Then we got a new one developed. And then we've got brown coming across southern Pacific. And look at here, Mediterranean is all brown. The Black Sea is brown and moving into red. Caspian Sea is brown. Persian Gulf is brown. This Baltic Sea is all solid brown. The North Sea is brown. And it's just not good at all. So worldwide, we're up 0.5 C, higher than normal. The Northern Hemisphere and North Pacific are both up 0.9 C. The North Atlantic is up 1 C. The Southern Hemisphere is up 0.2 C. And the Equatorial Pacific is down 0.1 C. And see, that's that had been lower. This Equatorial Pacific had been like minus 0.2, minus 0.3, but now it's only minus 0.1. And so we've got browns coming in right around that ridge of the Equatorial Pacific. So that's bringing that temperature up. Now, we'll move on to sea ice. Methane. I'm a little frazzled here. I'm really tired. So, we're looking at the NOAA data from yesterday, the 27th in the morning, for the MET-OT-B or MET-OT-1 satellite. We're tracking the 469 millibar reading. The mean or average was 1945 parts per billion. That's the highest we've seen that this year or ever. We're setting records every day because we're higher than whatever it was this time last year, because it never goes all the way back down. The high reading was 2428, and so look at all these pinks. That's the range down here. And the range is between 2,000 parts per billion and whatever the high number here. In this case, 2428. We've got pinks coming all the way down to the Antarctic coastline. And in the afternoon, the mean was 1945 as well. The high reading was 2438. Here's our chart and spreadsheet. So for this 27th, that averages out to be 1945 parts per billion this week, giving us an increase of 7.5. Can you believe that? Last week we were at 1937.5. And then talk about a spike, 7.5 increase this week. And this line is just going straight up. 1945. And not only did we pass 1940, but we're at 1945 now. that's unbelievable. And that's the biggest increase I've seen in 1 week since I've been doing this. It started in March 1st of 2019. And I think the most it was in 1 week before this was last year in the summertime. We had an increase of 6.5 in 1 week. 6 or 6.5. You can see it. We have those straight up things. Unbelievable. And we got kind of a slow start with the rising on the methane. It just really hung around, just above 1920. Did that for a couple of months, and then now we're just zipping up. And we're 60 parts per billion higher than this time a year ago, and we're 75.5 parts per billion higher right here than from March 1st of 2019, where I started this. 75.5. Can you believe that? I mean, I just feel like we're just living in this very weird, bizarre Twilight Zone, end of the world movie. It's so strange. So, let's see what methane did this week. Here we were last Sunday. We were looking at the Saturday data for the 20th, and it was at 1937.5, and no change that week. And then Sunday it went up 2.5, so that's a large increase, went up to 1940. Monday it went down 1. Tuesday it went up 1. Wednesday it went down 0.5. Thursday it shot up 2.5. Friday it went up 0.5. And then Saturday it shot up 2.5, giving us an overall increase of 7.5 this week. So 3 days this week we had sharp increases of 2.5. That's a sharp increase for 1 day, and 3 of those in 1 week. And so typically methane keeps rising until around the first part of October, and we got kind of a late start. It was about a month late with really taking off. So is it gonna, I think it's gonna make up for it though. I think we're gonna go straight up through September, and maybe well into October. We just don't know. We're in uncharted territory, and like I said, here was our peak last year. That was in the first part of October, and it was like 19. What was it? Last year, 1936. And see, the increase that week was 6.5, and that was our peak for the year. See, and so that was at the end of the warming. Here the week of August 21st of last year, it went up 5.5. That was the second highest, I think, for 1 week. Now, see, it's gone down that much in 1 week. Here it went down 8.5 in December of 2020. So, but that's the most we've seen on an increase in 1 week. So that's just stunning. Really stunning. How high is it going to go? I don't know. And see, then when it goes down, it doesn't go down near as much as the year before. See, where it hits the lows, it just keeps going up. So there's that. Now, we'll move on to CAMS. This is the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services website. We're going to look at Saturday the 27th, Arctic view and surface level. Here's our color ledger. So the data is for Saturday, and the forecast period is Sunday through Wednesday. It might take a second for this to reload. Now this whole Norway over to Russia, this is where we saw the brown. This whole area about over to this area. It's all in the brown on 2 meter temperature anomaly. See, it's just never ending here. And we've got high readings streaming up from Ireland and the UK. That's in the forecast period. Komsomolets is still billowing. It's not hemorrhaging. It's gone down, but it's still constant. It had been hemorrhaging. And see this high reading here along the coastline. Here's the Laptev Sea. And we've got high readings coming up from China up through Russia, here in southern Russia. We don't see the southern Russia area this high very often. And here in Alaska, they've been having rain, so it's pretty blobby. Lots of methane there. Canada, still lots of methane. And then we'll go to the North Pole view. Now, look at these waves move off of the land here. See, it's normally we don't see them that high reading. That's the yellow-green. That's about 2,000 parts per billion. These waves that are moving out from Russia and China, and see, here it comes. See, it moves across, and then it ends up coming on down from Alaska. Sometimes it's, here we see it coming off of the west coast of the U.S. Look at this green, just kind of morphing all the way down Canada, U.S. and so forth. Look at this Ireland area. Look at that. That's awful. See, here's the Persian Gulf. Here's India. Here's China. And here in the U.S., pretty blobby. And see the same thing over here with these waves. Waves moving off. Sorry about my voice. Can't be helped. Here's our problem spot. This is in that same area where we saw the red blob in the North Atlantic. And now we'll go to the global view. .5. I can't believe it. That's just unreal. And we're not done. We've got a few more days in August, then all of September, usually around the first part of October it peaks out. So five more weeks at least before it peaks out. And we're seeing this 1840. This darker blue, that's 1840 parts per billion. We're seeing areas where just not huge areas, but seeing that lower. But most of the southern hemisphere is the 1860 parts per billion. Or higher. See, we've got green. It's moving. We've got the greenish tinge. See that? Here in the Indian Ocean. Here. But that's right under the ozone hole. See that? That's like 1880 to 1900. There's a perpetual ozone hole in this part of the Indian Ocean, just west of Australia and kind of southwest of Indonesia there. There's that. Now we'll go to 500 HPA. That's about halfway up in the atmosphere, about the same level as what we're tracking on the NOAA data. Look at this. Look at all this dark. This is it's on that east side of Russia, where I said normally we don't see it high readings there. And up here over the Laptev Sea, and then coming all the way across. Look, it's streaming out across the Pacific and comes across China, Asia, India, and then look at this heavy over Saudi Arabia, moving into Africa. Then we've got the reds and oranges coming down further to the south. And now total column. This is where they add up all the readings through the layers. And highest here from Japan all the way across. Look at that. Look at this. Persian Gulf, Saudi Arabia, Red Sea. So there's that. And let's look through this. So here's the sun today. We saw that on spaceweather.com. But here we can zoom in. Look at this. That's just that's a plasma ball in the hole of the corona in the middle. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Here, that's the M6-7 flare. Look, see, it's going off. All these areas, sunspots that are flaring. Okay, moving on. This is from CAMS. This is the smoke from the fires. And we've got smoke over this western Russia region. Same place where we saw the dark brown for 2-meter temperature anomaly. So there are fires there. And then quite a few fires and smoke across Canada. We're not seeing that much down here in the U.S. I mean, this year has been totally different from the last couple of years for the summer here where I live. And I'm thankful, I'm thankful that we didn't have real bad smoke all summer. Here's sulfur dioxide today. we've got a higher reading here next to Kamchatka. Here it is at 500 HPA. Now this in the South Pacific, this is the third day we've been seeing sulfur dioxide that had jumped up through the layers of the atmosphere like this. Not sure what it's from. I haven't seen earthquakes. It could be underwater volcano going off, or it could be plate movement. We've also got a high reading here. This is between New Zealand and Australia. Okay, here's the Pacific view. Ring of fire. Look at this. So I don't know. And then look at up here. Look at that strange shape. It's very odd. Here it is at 500 HPA. So this could be left over from the last couple of days. Although I think this one here is a new one. Now that's on a tectonic plate line. So I don't know. Here's the ozone hole over the Antarctic today. Now the sun is coming up down there, and but the hole is growing, and where you see it in this kind of purplish blue, and then the blue inside these big thick black lines, that's in the danger zone. That's below 200 Dobson units. Like this purplish blue is 175 to 200. This blue is, that's Dobson units. This blue is 150 to 175 Dobson units. That's how ozone is measured. And it's very thin. Very, very thin. And we've got another danger zone here, just south of South America, and then on the east side. And so if you look at the greens, I mean, the hole is huge. It's going way out. It's not just like covering the inside. It's going way out further than the land. Here's the Arctic ozone, and we can see it's getting thinner up here. We've got the green, or this is like chartreuse, and then this is the next thinness down. Now the solid yellow is 300 Dobson units. That's considered a good reading. And then when you get into the yellow-green, that's under 300. And then it keeps going down in the greens. So a lot of the Arctic is in the greens now. Canada, US, look at that, Kamchatka, and then this whole Western Russia region It's in the greens. Same area where we've got the smoke from the fires and the 2-meter temperature anomaly in the browns. And a lot of methane. Here's the global view. Look at all these greens. See, we're losing the ozone layer. Absolutely. Then you've got some thicker areas where it's gathering, but it's just not good. There's that. Now we'll move on to sea ice. And we'll start with this slideshow from Climate Reanalyzer. I download information every day from several websites. This is one of them. This is sea ice and snow cover for today. We can zoom in here. Here's the North Pole. Here we can see the holes opening up just north of the North Pole and the collapsing ice. Where you see the dark, that's a lot of open water. In between, like slush or really thin or almost not there ice. And here in the Chukchi Sea, see that's collapsing. The Beaufort Sea is collapsing. And it's showing most of the Northwest Passage is just open. Look at that. I guess their cruise is going to go okay. Their expeditions. The $34,000 a seat expeditions. And we can see it's now all the Russia coastline is melted. See? So let's go through our slideshow for this week. Here we were last Sunday in my show. Here's Monday, Tuesday. Look at that change. Let's go back. There's Monday to Tuesday. That was a big change. Wednesday, Thursday. That was a big change. Friday, Saturday, and here we are today. So, sometimes we'll see something open up one day and then close up the next. That can happen with the ice drift and with the way the ice moves around. Now we'll move on. This is the Navy sea ice models. This is the Arctic sea ice thickness for today. Here's our color ledger on the right. The light lavender is about 0.5 meters deep. Goes backwards through the rainbow up to dark red, which is 5 meters thick. Which we're not going to see any of that. Here we are today. the extent is still shrinking down. We're seeing a lot of thinning, and see all of this light lavender, this whole area. I mean, this all could go right here in a heartbeat. The North Pole is in the dark blue range. That's about 1 meter thick. Here's the white where the holes are opening up. Now we're seeing some thicker ice kind of piling up or forming on this north end of Greenland. I wouldn't say it's refreezing. I would say it's just piling up there with the ice drift. This aqua, this is what's left of the thicker sea ice, and it's changing, it's squishing down, it's thinning out, and we're seeing where it's breaking apart and going into darker aqua, and you know, if it keeps going, we'll just see big holes open up. And see this west end, there's a big break right there. So most of this ice is it's under 1 meter. Wherever you see purple or light lavender, I mean, it's just very thin, and but that's what's gonna keep that heat in. Here's the 30-day animation. This was updated to yesterday, so the data goes back for 3 weeks, and the forecast period goes out to next Saturday. So let's see what they're gonna what it's gonna show for this week. Wow. Look at this big shift right at the end. This whole piece just pulls away. See? Look at that. Wow. That's stunning to see that. So that's the ice strip pulling it away. Look at that. The whole thing just lifts up. Okay, I'm going to stop it at the end. Okay, here we are for next Saturday. And look what's happened. As it pulls away, the hole forms above Greenland again, and as this ice pulls away, we've got thinner ice. This is dark blue, and then we've got a hole here at Ellesmere Island, and see how the aqua pulls away, and see these cracks opening up. Wow. So that's September 3rd. So here we are today. Let's watch it as I click through. There it comes. See, here it comes. Moving. It's the whole piece. Wow. Normally, you know, we'll see like an end pick up and move out, but we won't see the whole thing pick up and move like that. Wonder what that means. Can't be good. So there's that. Here's the Beaufort sea ice thickness. This is for yesterday. So here's Canada, here's the end of that thicker ice. See the lines where it's opening up. Here's the Beaufort Sea. Look how that's just disintegrated. And the 30-day animation. This goes, this was updated to yesterday, so the forecast goes out to next Saturday. See, it's still thinning out. There's a lot of melting going on. Now typically, as we move into September, the melting slows down. The melt rate slows down as we reach minimum extent, but it keeps melting. And remember, there's warm water underneath, so it can keep melting underneath. And making everything thinner too. So I'm going to stop it. Here we are for the 3rd. See that? Here it's pulling away, and there. Wherever you see white or white-ish, that's open water. Alright, now we'll pop down to the Antarctic. This is sea ice thickness for today. Now we're still in the growth time. Usually around the early to mid part of September is when it reaches its maximum. Now last year it maxed out right around the end of August and started melting early, about 2-3 weeks early. So we'll see what happens this year. And it's still thickening here in the Ross Sea, and still getting a little bit of regrowth on the edges. Here's where it's thickened up in the Weddell Sea, along the Larsens and its western peninsula. Aquas, greens, and yellows. And a little bit thicker ice around some of these edges. Here's the 30-day animation, again updated to yesterday. So the forecast goes out to next Saturday. I think it's going to peak out maybe this week. Okay, there's that. Here's National Snow and Ice Data Center for yesterday. This is Arctic sea ice concentration. And here are the holes that we're watching north of the North Pole. And see how dark blue that is? There's a lot of open water when it goes into that dark of a blue. And we can see the blue forming around the North Pole too. So that means it's breaking up there. This brown line is the median. Here's the chart for sea ice extent. Now here's 2012 on the dotted line. Here we are this year with the blue line. It's still going down, and it's going down at a steeper angle. So, we could lose a lot of extent. And usually it bottoms out around mid-September. Here's the median. So that is, that's about what is that? 5 million square kilometers. So I don't think we're going to have a blue ocean event, but you never know. So here's the Antarctic. And here's their regrowth chart. The blue line is this year. This greenish line was last year. This gray line is the median. So we're still refreezing. It's kind of going up at a sharper angle. But I don't think it's going to reach last year's extent. Here's Greenland for yesterday. Now Greenland is almost at its usual end of the melt season. We've still got quite a bit of area on the tip still melting, and a couple of other areas. Here's the cumulative melt days for this year. Wherever you see something that's not white, that means you've had at least one day of melt this year. And getting up, see it's getting into the dark red. 80 days of melt. Here's the chart. The red line is this year. and this blue dotted line is the median. And see, we've had some higher melting, some this week. We had a little spike. I think it was yesterday. Day before. But we're right around the median. It looks like about 1 to 2% right now. That's all of that. Now we'll move on to NASA Worldview. I'm going to start here in the Arctic. We're going to look at the Antarctic too, but I want to do the Arctic first today. Here we are. Look at this. So we'll turn on sea ice concentration, so we can see where it's where the sea ice is and what different stages it's in, and turn off the clouds. And anywhere you see any colors, it's melting. So where you see the solid white, that's where it's the most concentrated, meaning there's no open water, no big cracks or anything like that. It doesn't mean that it's thick. It just means that it's more of a solid area. So not much white. Lots of colors. Here are the holes. Look at this large area that's opening up, and really this whole area north of the North Pole, we could lose most of that. And then look at all of this in the Beaufort Sea. And even look how this is swooping down. This east side is coming apart really fast too. So I'd say we're still in high melt. So let's go back to last Sunday. Here we were last week. And so we had a fringe of ice here. That was a fluke in the Barents Sea. It's not there now. Alright, let's go through. Here was Sunday. There's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Look at that. Big shift. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then today. Remember, we've been having rain just at different spots. So there we are. Now we'll turn the clouds back on. Turn off that layer. And let's go in. We'll start down here at Greenland. Here's a hole. Here's a hole. We're looking through some clouds there. Here's the north coast. Now the right along here is where it's showing thicker ice on the Navy model. So it's not a large area, it's just right along this coastline there. Let's see what this looked like yesterday. Here we go. Well, I don't know where they're getting that thicker ice reading from. I mean, it's breaking up. I have no clue. Oh boy. There's an opaque layer. Look at that. We're not being able to make it out very well, but there's a lot of open water there. This is yesterday. Yeah, I think we're looking through one of those extra layers. Anyway, here's the nearest strait. See, here's the ice coming down, and here's where it opens out. But look at this west end. That's all cleared out. And here's the Baffin Bay. These are clouds. Look at this interior on Ellesmere. That's all melted. See the dark. See? Yeah. Look, almost no ice in this northwest pat. I mean, look at this. So here's the ice coming down. And let's go back. Now, let's go up. Here's this eastern edge. Let's see. I just want to see where the edge of the ice, here's the edge of the ice, okay. Now, here's the North Pole. Oh, I'm on the wrong day. No wonder it's like I'm like, there's a hole here somewhere. Here we are. Here's the North Pole. Look at this. So here's where we saw the holes opening up. Look at this. That's a lot of open water. But they're counting all of this as extent. They're not counting any of the open water. I mean, they're not subtracting for the open water. And wherever it's open water, you're not going to be reflecting any heat or radiation. See the open water coming in? This is all breaking up. Here we go. I'll move up, and this looks pretty bad all the way up. Look at this. Look at this. We're looking through a thin cloud layer, but there's just tons of open water. There's the ice edge. This is right here. That's 80 degrees north latitude. And this is stunning to see this. All right. Let's see. Okay, I wanted to show Svalbard. There's Svalbard. Longyearbyen. Look at that. Hardly any snow or ice at Longyearbyen, and that's where the seed vault is. Dug into the permafrost. Here's Franz Josef Land, that's open. Okay, here's Novaya Zemlya. And all that's open. Here's Severnaya Zemlya. This is open. Here's Komsomolets. Here's the Vovolov ice cap. Look at that. Here it was yesterday. Here's the ice pouring into the ocean. It's pouring off of Vovolov. So it's right around here. It's where we see the methane billowing and sometimes hemorrhaging. Here we are today. Moving on. Here's the ice. And here's the Laptev Sea, with, these are clouds. It's open, no ice there. Let's see if we can see. See, open water. That was yesterday. Here's New Siberian Islands. Here's the coastline. See the green? That's algae. And back to today. So this coastline is open. There's some ice. Can barely see. Look. Open water. That's just a fringe of ice, and that's all counted. And back to today. There's the Bering Strait open. Okay, trying to see if we can see what's going on in the Beaufort Sea. Okay, here, look how that's melted. That's in high melt. Let's see yesterday. Let's see, almost nothing there. Here's the 26th. Just not able to see a lot. You get the idea. Here's the 25th. Today is about the best view we can get for this week. So you can see it's in high melt. And so this whole piece all the way across and over here, it's gonna lift up and pull out away from the coastline, the whole thing. So we'll be watching for that. That should be dramatic. Now let's hop down to the Antarctic and see our black area is getting smaller as the sun is coming up. It's still very low on the horizon. but almost all the coastlines are in the sun now. So we're going to start up here. Here's our A76 iceberg that we're following. And see, the ice is trying to form around it. But I'm concerned about these islands. Maybe it'll miss, but it's rotated almost 45 degrees this week. So let's go back to last Sunday. Here we were last Sunday. See, straight up and down. And then there's Monday, Tuesday, here we go. Wednesday, Thursday, here we go. Friday, Saturday, and here we are today. So it's horizontal, going straight across now. I don't know how it's going to miss those islands. Anyway, this is the Weddell Sea, and our thickest ice is right along here, just out from this western peninsula. Let's see if we can see the Brunt ice shelf. I don't think we can yet. No. It'll probably come into view this week. And look, here's the coastline. Now the ice goes out. See, way out there. Here's the north end. Here's the east side. Here's the Amory ice shelf. Can't see anything. Not much to see here. Too many clouds. And here's the coast. And see here, the ice doesn't come out very far on the east side. And look at this. We've got a lot of open water right up next to the coast. I don't know why that is. Here's the Totem Glacier. We're tracking that. Okay, here it was on the 26th. And you can see the tongue here. Coming around, here's the Ross Sea. And here's the west side. Now, Pine Island Glacier is right up here. Right there. Here. Yesterday. We can't really make anything out because of the angle. Here's today. Now we'll look at some earthquakes. USGS, we've got 270 in the last 24 hours worldwide. Let's go to 1 day all magnitudes. 47 were 2.5 magnitude or higher. Look, 5.9. Indonesia. Perimean, Indonesia. That just came in. 5.5, same place. 5.6. Tonga. And we've got 4s. 5.1 Fiji region. 3s and 4s. So those were the largest ones, the 5s. No 6s or 7s today. Look at all of these in the US that are above 2.5 magnitude. A lot of days we won't have any that big. We have a lot, but they're small. Here's one in Canada. 2.5 Notre Dame, Dumont, Carmel, Canada. We've got one on the Juan de Fuca plate, 3.3. Here's a 3.4 in Mena, Nevada. 3.5 Woodford Heights, California. 2.8 San Simeon. And 2.8 Stanley, Idaho. Texas. We've got 3.0 and 2.5 in West Texas. 2.6 Leon, Oklahoma. Look at this depth, 0.3 kilometer depth. 2.7 Cocker City, Kansas. Those are the largest, biggest ones for the US. Now, let's go back 1 day, all magnitudes. We've got movement up here in the Pacific Northwest, that Cascadia zone. Look at this. We've got a cluster or a swarm. Maybe we'll call this a swarm. We've got 17 all at Woodford. 3.5 Woodford Heights, California. That's just east of Isabella Lake. 3.5, and then ones 2.2, 2.0. So 17 here so far. Southern California had 31. Let's see. And we got them all along the San Andreas fault line. And then the geysers region 33. Let's look at 7 days, all magnitudes. So this week we've had 1,969 earthquakes worldwide. Look at all of this. And we saw movement of this Antarctic plate. That's why I'm thinking, we'll see those earthquakes. I'm thinking that sulfur dioxide is from the plate movement down there. We had here one south of Iceland, 4.4 Reykjanes Ridge, and then kind of an unusual 3.9 off the coast of Norway. That was on the 25th. And I don't think we had any 6s. 5s. I think they were all 5s and under. So that's my report for tonight. And I like to bring things back to a spiritual perspective. We've been reading out of the Book of Wisdom, which is one of the books of the Apocrypha. We're almost done with this book. And this book was written by King Solomon. Wisdom, chapter 16. Therefore, by the like were they punished worthily, and by the multitude of beasts tormented, instead of which punishment, dealing graciously with thine own people, thou preparest for them meat of a strange taste, even quails to stir up their appetite. To the end that they, desiring food, might for the ugly side of the beasts sent among them loathe even that which they must needs desire. But these, suffering penury for a short space, might be made partakers of a strange taste. For it was requisite that upon them exercising tyranny should come penury, which they could not avoid, but to these it should only be shewed how their enemies were tormented. For when the horrible fierceness of beasts came upon them, and they perished with the stings of crooked serpents, their wrath endured not forever, but they were troubled for a small season, that they might be admonished, having a sign of salvation, to put them in remembrance of the commandment of thy law. For he that turned himself toward it was not saved by the thing that he saw, but by thee that art the Saviour of all. And in this thou madness thine enemies confess that it is thou who delivered them all from evil. For them the bitings of grasshoppers and flies killed, neither was there found any remedy for their life, for they were worthy to be punished by such. But thy sons not the very teeth of venomous dragons overcame, for thy mercy was ever by them and healed them. For they were pricked, that they should remember thy words, and were quickly saved, that not falling into deep forgetfulness, they might be continually mindful of thy goodness. For it was neither herb nor mollifying plaster that restored them to health, but thy word, O Lord, which healeth all things. For thou hast power of life and death. Thou leadest to the gates of hell, and bringest up again. A man indeed killeth through his malice, and the spirit, when it gone forth, returneth not, neither the soul received up cometh again. But it is not possible to escape thine hand. For the ungodly that denied to know thee were scourged by the strength of thine arm. With strange rains, hails, and showers were they persecuted, that they could not avoid, and through fire were they consumed. For which is most to be wondered at, the fire had more force in the water, that quencheth all things, for the world fighteth for the righteous. For some time the flame was mitigated, that it might not burn up the beasts that were sent against the ungodly, but themselves might see and perceive that they were persecuted with the judgment of God. And at another time it burneth even in the midst of water, above the power of fire, that it might destroy the fruits of an unjust land. Instead whereof thou feddest thine own people with angels' food, and didst send them from heaven bread prepared without their labor, able to content every man's delight, and agreeing to every taste. For thy sustenance declared thy sweetness unto thy children, and serving to the appetite of the eater, tempered itself to every man's liking. But snow and ice endured the fire, and melted not, that they might know that fire burning in the hail, and sparkling in the rain, did destroy the fruits of the enemies. But this again did not even forget his own strength, that the righteous might be nourished. For the creature that serveth thee, who art the Maker, increaseth his strength against the unrighteous for their punishment, and abateth his strength for the benefit of such as put their trust in thee. Therefore, even then was it altered into all fashions, and was obedient to thy grace, that nourisheth all things, according to the desire of them that had need. That thy children, O Lord, whom thou lovest, might know that it is not the growing of fruits that nourisheth man, but that is thy word, which preserveth them that put their trust in thee. For that which was not destroyed by the fire, being warmed with a little sunbeam, soon melted away, that it might be known that we must prevent the sun to give thee thanks, and at the dayspring pray unto thee. For the hope of the unthankful shall melt away as the winter's hoarfrost, and shall run away as unprofitable water. Wisdom, chapter 16. So, we're seeing a lot of things that just don't make sense. They don't fit in with what we've seen in the past. And we're in the end days. And so until the end, we have to be flexible. We have to be able to change and to meet any circumstances that we find ourselves in, and not just be locked into one way of doing things or one belief, but be open. And also, I believe it's important to have a relationship with God and Jesus so that we can be under their wing in these dark days that are upon us, so that we can be protected and cared for even in the midst of all the chaos. It's like being in the eye of the hurricane, being under the wing of God until it's time to go. We need to pray, and we need to repent and ask that we can be found worthy to be in God's kingdom. So if you haven't given your life to Jesus Christ, I highly recommend it before it's too late. I love you all, and I'm praying for you. And I hope everyone has as good a week as possible. And just stay calm, stay on an even keel, and just let God's will be done. I love you. Until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and I will talk to you soon. Good night.